And when the units forming this solar system are achieve balance within themselves, they each become a sun and generate again. Now in man, the Chinese say, he receives his spirit from imperial heaven, the Yellow Emperor. He receives his body from the Great Mother. He brings these two, spirit and matter, into equilibrium and produces a sun, S-U-N. And this sun is the soul. And the soul is therefore composed of gold. Not physical gold, but the same kind of gold that is always created by equilibrium. The moment equilibrium is created in the alchemical mysticism, the gold within a thing is caused to be released. Because wherever there is gold, there is a potential equilibrium. And as I think I told you on another occasion, research at Dornach in Switzerland has shown that gold, colloidal gold, is a sovereign remedy for ailments of the heart. Heart, sun, gold, soul. They are all part of one sequence of values. Now, according to the Chinese, there is gold in everything, just as the Europeans have. Now, what is the gold in everything? What is the seed of gold that must always be present in every single thing that exists? The answer is that everything has within it the potential of equilibrium. All things have the possibility of being synthesized into balance. Now, if you remember in the Sefer HaZohar, the Kabbalistic book of the Splendors, it says, unbalanced forces perish in the void. Thus passed the kings of Edom and the giants of ancient days. Your titans, your chaotic giants, fighting for control of the universe, represented your two great powers, the Mother Father Dragons in China, that struggled together and produced between them the golden ball, which is the symbol of imperial China and also the symbol of the age of the world. When ether and chaos among the Greek philosophers, the Orphics, struggled and strove between themselves, they finally formed a whirling mass, which became the golden egg of Phanes, which burst forth to release the Logos in the creation of the world. So from the strivings, from the struggles of the unbalanced elements, came again the golden age. Now the golden age on earth is the age when there was no conflict, when everything lived in peace together. This was the first and most glorious of the yugas, the great age of the gods. It is always the same essential symbolism. And gold, silver, gold, heart, sun, man. All these relate to this mystery of equilibrium. So the Chinese, naturally, following all nations that have had metaphysical speculation, came to the conclusion that in some way man's own nature, the etheric field, the magnetic body, his aura, the totality of it, was a body, a crystal room in which his soul was generated. And we hear in the age of chivalry how Merlin went to sleep in an egg of glass. We hear how the Hermetic homunculus is created in a womb of glass. We have this glass, which again is the psychic field of the human being, in which the mystery of his own equilibrium takes place. This mystery of equilibrium is represented in the Chinese by the yang-yin combination. The circle with the twisted form in it, which forms half black and half white content of the circle, but the two parts do not divide the circle evenly, but have that effect which we now recognize in connection with one of our large radio companies, which uses this yin-yang symbol. And also, I believe it was used for a number of years as a symbol by the technocrats. It is a symbol of the two half spheres, but they're in motion, so that the hemispheres appear like two sperms or two living creatures, sometimes each one with a dot or eye in it. Occasionally, this field is divided into three twisting sperms, and is often surrounded by the Huangpo and the various emblems, the trigrams and the hexagrams of the Chinese I Ching or classical changes. But this motion of God in all things is released by equilibrium. So we have the problem of bringing the human being to equilibrium. And to achieve this end, we must bring about that which is supposedly impossible. Because alchemy begins by assuming that the first experiment means the accomplishment of the impossible. And that impossible, as we mentioned in one of the other talks, is to make fire burn in water and water support the flame. It means that we have to achieve the absolute unification of two utterly divided factors. In alchemy, they say, well, it is done because heaven and earth are man and woman. And man and woman unite and produce the sun. They produce Alchemy. By their union, they release Tao, and Tao becomes a new being and lives. Therefore, the absolute polarities can come together and do a generation, both physical and spiritual, is under the same rule. But in the problem of man's achievement of the stone, he has a spiritual seed, a spiritual profundity, a mystery that is completely free in space, the unicorn that can only be captured when the virgin ties her scarf to his horn. This absolute motion must therefore come into absolute reconciliation with that which is absolute stasis. That which is immovable must meld with that which is ultimate and eternal motion. Spirit and matter, good and bad, life and death, dimensions, up and down, in and out, must all come to an absolute neutrality. So how is this to be accomplished? There's only one possible way in which it can be accomplished, and that is by an art which is capable of dominating and perfecting the work of nature. To achieve this art, then, in the case of man, the hermetic adept must appear. The mystery must be solved through the recognition of the formula of the complete transmutation. Now, in the Chinese philosophy, this formula is stated somewhat differently from the way that it is stated in Europe. And this formula in Chinese philosophy is something like this. The human being has an inside and outside. These are his opposites. Halfway between the inside and the outside is a focal point, which he calls self. Therefore, self, or ego, is a movable point somewhere within the chemical field of the mingling of internal and external. Self is sustained from the outside by the sensory perceptions, which are constantly contributing to its existence. Self is sustained from the inside by the descent of consciousness into specialized fields of action. So this self moves with the individual. It is a wandering point. When I look at something, I move myself into that thing. I stand in front of a picture and I enjoy it very much. Myself has gone out enjoying the picture. After looking at it for a few minutes, I get tired of that, and I think of myself again, and it goes into my pocketbook, perhaps, and stays there for a little while to make sure that everything is safe and sound. Then after a few minutes more, it has another little bit of vagary bestowed upon it. It travels elsewhere. It travels off into something I want to do. I want a vacation next summer, so it goes off and joins the pine trees up in the mountains somewhere while I look at it. Then the self comes back and thinks a little bit about the job it's supposed to be doing to make a living here. Then the self drifts off and identifies itself with family and friends and children and begins to worry about them. Then the self picks up the new daily paper and at this moment identifies itself with the stock exchange. This self is forever moving upon the focus of its own point of awareness. If I have a pain, myself is there. And that is why it hurts. If I have two pains at the same time in different places, myself is hopelessly confused and forgets to hurt in either one. because it cannot survive. If I stub my toe, myself immediately anticipates and visualizes the process of falling. When I'm hungry, myself goes out and wraps itself around the concept of food and begins to draw it towards me like a little amoeba or something of that point, or a gasteropodia of some nature. But myself is forever in motion. Today myself has a new idea, and I think Emerson is the greatest philosopher who ever lived. Next day I find out that Emerson had a bad disposition, so I move over and my philosophy centers on Immanuel Kant for a little while until I find out he took 10 years to propose to a young lady, and that doesn't sound like very good philosophy. As a result. Little by little, myself moves around. Myself takes on illusions. Then he gets disillusioned, then I hate everybody. I hate everybody but myself. Because I will never accept responsibility for what I do if I can possibly avoid it or shift it anywhere else. So this self, in Chinese philosophy, can best be diagrammed by something that would look like the track of an earthworm wandering through several feet of terrain. It goes in all directions. Now in the West, we think of the self as a center, from which everything radiates and which forever remains the same. But the Chinese and the Hindus do not. They recognize this self as something that is like a will-o'-the-wisp, and its abode is anywhere and everywhere, and that it is an untamed thing which has to be bridled, and it has to be captured and held and trained like the wild horses of the gods, or no one can ride it. And that in this wandering around from here and there and everywhere, there is no balance. And that the work of alchemy is to draw the self inevitably and irresistibly to dead center and leave it there, so that it occupies the position of the dot in the circle. The moment it reaches dead center, it ceases to move, and everything else moves around it. This dead center is the true formula, the true point of the precipitation of the stone. Now, how to get this to dead center involves practically every system of philosophy that we know. We recognize at least 7 great systems of philosophy and religion, religious philosophy for the most part, descending from ancient times. These, each of them, corresponds to the talisman or figure of one of the 7 planets. For the 7 religions and philosophies radiate the truth just as the 7 planets reflect the light of the sun. Therefore, the religions of the world are a series of formulas, of metals, which are involved in this transmutation. And whether we like to believe it or not, the essential principles of all these 7 must be used to project the stone, because all these elements must release the diamond core which is in them. And the world, in its search for the transmutation of the world body or world form into the world soul, must and has achieved all that is achieved through the alchemy of the transmutation of the 7 planets or the 7 great religions and philosophies. They are all part of the same formula, approached on a different level. So here we have man surrounded by his 7 sensory perceptions, 5 active and 2 latent, and we have him trying to transmute the wanderers, which is the meaning of the word planet, and bring them into a focal point. And in this focal point to generate the diamond self. Now the self, instead of being actually the source of these various energies, such as will, thought, emotion, is really the focal point of their own activity. Man's self does not generate his emotions or his thoughts. His emotions and thoughts generate his stuff. Therefore, the self is often the victim of heredity, bad heredity, in this particular case. The imbalance of emotions and thoughts represent themselves to us as the crippled offspring, like the Egyptian god who was lame in his feet because of the sins of his parents. And in this case, the sins of the parents are the sins of the heart and mind, resulting in the deformity of the soul. So we have the problem of getting this projection of the soul, the absolute equilibrium. And in the Chinese thinking, how do we do it? We do it by following very closely upon the basic instructions of Lao Tzu. Inasmuch as the Chinese insist that this wander, the centralizing self which is never centered, is forced out of center. That it wanders because it has to, and not because it wants to. It wanders because it is the victim of the intensities of the emotions and the thoughts. Whatever we feel, whatever we think, the self must serve. Therefore, we bind the self like Samson was bound to the millstone of the Philistines. We blind the self as we blinded Samson. And we make this focal point the slave of what we may term emphasis. It is the thing by which we attach ourselves to any given object of attention. It is supported by our own will to do these things, by our own desires, by our own strategies, by our own thoughts. And these things are constantly forcing the self out of center, forbidding it to return to center, and identifying it with some unbalanced part of its own field. Lao Tzu, therefore, taught his disciple that the thing that is necessary always is to restore the self to the center. And as the self approaches the center, it approaches the state of Tao. And as it approaches the center, it gains control of the circumference. Because it can never control the circumference equally until it is in center. How does this occur? Lao Tzu says that it occurs by the gradual reduction of the active principle which we would term the energy field in man, or the libido. It is achieved by the individual ceasing to direct the motion of life. The moment the individual ceases to force life into some way, or some direction, or some activity, life immediately returns to equilibrium. Therefore, illumination is not something that the individual must desperately attempt to attain. It is something that he is desperately attempting to prevent, even while he is constantly talking about its desirability. It is not that this path of Tao, the road which is Tao, is as difficult as the symbolism suggests. It is that the individual himself refuses to walk in a straight line. He refuses to permit the principle of Tao to operate. Now we can use an old example taken from one of the Chinese classics to point this situation. It seems that there was an old master who had 5 disciples. Of course, the 5 disciples are the 5 colors, the 5 elements, the 5 provinces of China, the 5 everythings that we have in this mystical situation that we are dealing with. 5 elements. Chinese have 5 elements. We have 4, but the alchemists have a 5th, Azoth. And we have a hypothetical 5th, which we call ether, and about which we are not very certain for the most part. But this old gentleman had 5 disciples, and he told them, he said, I want you to travel all around the world and return and tell me what you have seen. Well, in his day, that was quite a task. So it was many, many years before they all got back. But they did, because they were all good Taoist disciples, and a great protecting power went with them. So after many years they returned, and each one of them told the master where he had been and what he had seen. But said the master, I told you to go everywhere. You have all been somewhere, but not one of you has been everywhere. Because there is not one of you who has visited every place. And they said to him, Master, we couldn't do it and get back. The old man says, no, my son, you couldn't do it if you started out. The only way you could do it was to stay here. And while you have all been somewhere, I have sat here and been everywhere. In other words, you cannot go there by that method. But if you attain a certain condition within yourself, you are there. Which may also explain why so many of these old mystics felt that their great service to mankind consisted of sitting quietly under a tree. Taoism would teach that they could do more for humanity under a tree if they knew what they were doing. And they could by running up and down the world, preaching, teaching, hoping, and fearing for 150 years. Because their contribution would be on a level of qualitative penetration, while everyone else would be running around on a quantitative level. So in the problem of Taoism, the return of the consciousness to the point of equilibrium is attained not by the victory over self through great stress and strain, through wrestling with an angel or something of that nature. It is simply by the gradual release of the individual from pressure, from the pressure of action. Now we come to the conclusion from this that the Taoist advocates a philosophy of non-action. He does. Not because non-action is negative, but because non-action is all action. There is no possible way of achieving absolute motion without passing through the state of absolute transition or transcension of motion. Alchemy says you can never unite the elements in their outward forms. You have got to reduce them to essence before they can be caused to mingle. Therefore, you can never, by any process that we know, take the various elements of the personality and force them into the union to produce the stone. Before they can be created into the stone, they must all die. Paul says, unless the seed dies, it shall not live again. And Taoism says that unless action dies, the individual can never achieve absolute action. Can never achieve absolute motion, or the complete motion of Taoism. To achieve this, therefore, he must transcend motion. And in so doing, he attains absolute motion. There is an analogy which he gives of the axis of the wheel and the rim. And that actually, the axis is the only point in the entire wheel that has achieved absolute motion, although the rim is moving there more rapidly. The axis is the only part that is in absolute equilibrium. So Taoism is absolute equilibrium. And in the attainment of it, by the reduction of spirit and matter to their basic elements, to their basic principles, by the complete separation of them from action and inaction as we know it, they precipitate the motion of Tao, which is absolute action. And this is the absolute stone. This is absolute life and absolute immortality and the universal medicine and the absolute source of wealth. Because all these things depend entirely upon the individual achieving absolute balance within his own consciousness. When he achieves that balance, he then generates, he then achieves the creation of the crystal homunculus. Because out of that balance, the union of spirit and matter within himself is born his own psychic system, his own psychic nature. And he becomes a living soul with a spiritual core and a new transcendent nature or transcendent being, as the Chinese call it, within himself. This being is like the Taoist genii. It goes everywhere. It rides on the unicorn. It rides on the dragon. It is absolutely free from fetter and bond. It achieves everything by becoming completely free of everything. It is the only free spirit in space. And it is the only thing that cannot die. Because death is always unbalanced and conflict. And if these two cease, there can be no death. So the diamond soul of Northern Buddhism, which supports the world, Vajrasattva, is the same thing, the same principle again. Buddhism has the same essential symbolism in the tremendous dynamic inaction of its religious art. The majority of your Buddhist figures sit serenely upon the blossoms of a lotus, with their eyes half closed, in complete posture of repose. Symbol of transcendent action. Symbol of the experience of Buddhahood. And representing to the Chinese consciousness the experience of Tao. Now, once Tao has been established within the individual, and his inaction becomes dynamic from within, every motion, every action, every manifestation of himself has to be with absolute rhythm. From that time on, anything that he touches becomes priceless because of the perfect energy of his own consciousness. Anything he does perfectly. A good example of that is your technique in your Zen issue in Japan of painting and art. When the Buddhists or other religious artist decides to paint a religious painting, he doesn't get a model, he doesn't start in making sketches, he doesn't go through any of the procedure of the Western artist who may do almost anything from chewing his pencils up and down. The first thing that he does before he paints a religious subject is to realize that this subject must be released. It must express itself from within himself. Therefore, he begins by meditation. He stretches his silk where he is going to use it. He sits down quietly in front of it and enters into an inner experience of life. As he gradually releases from his own consciousness, his own understanding of the thing he wants to paint, moving it from within his own internal completely, he gradually visualizes onto this piece of silk the complete picture that he intends to paint. He does so without any effort, without any strenuosity, without any question as to whether it is going to be right or wrong. He simply permits it to visually unfold, projecting his own internal contemplation and his own visual power as though it was a magic lantern, casting a reflection of a picture right onto this piece of silk. In some instances, it's been known that the artist would sit and look at the piece of silk and meditate upon it for 2 or 3 years without taking so much as a piece of crayon or an ink slab in his hand at all. Then, having completed from within himself the full projection of his artistry, he suddenly takes his little brush, takes his little ink slabs, and in 10 minutes the painting is finished. As one artist said, it took him 10 years and 10 minutes to meditate it. Everyone thought he'd worked on it for a long time. He worked for the 10 minutes, and he grew for the 10 years. And the combination was a great work of art. This is the motion from within. This is the idea that the Chinese try to express in Tao. That it is the Tao, or universal rhythm, coming out and finally possessing the individual that makes it possible for him with an infallible stroke of his brush, which never needs to be corrected. In Chinese art, you never change a line and you never correct one. It has to all exist within your consciousness, and even your hand has to be so accurate and so completely possessed by the picture that many Chinese artists, when the time comes to paint it with their eyes closed and never have to change a line. They have visualized this thing, their hands have actually visualized. The great Shingon monk in Japan, Kobodaichi, had such tremendous concentration of power in this particular situation that he placed a brush between each finger of both hands, remained in meditation until he had completed the concept of his picture, dipped the brushes this way into 10 different slabs, each one with a different shade, and with his eyes closed, painted the picture with 10 brushes at one time, because there was absolute concentration within his own consciousness. Now this is the stone, as far as China is concerned, this terrific power. This man can never need anything in this world, because his own incredible internal can sustain him through anything. In India, a holy man going through the forest is seldom molested by an animal, simply because his consciousness will not permit it. In the Eastern Chinese concept, the entire projection of this from within self is so tremendous that it corresponds with what the Western alchemist calls projection. He uses the term in European alchemy. That he is able to release the stone, release the dynamic, release the universal medicine through himself. There is also a story in China of a great artist priest who was called to tend to a man who was sick. And after he had sat and watched the sick man for some time, this monk asked for a piece of silk. It was set before the sick man on a little frame such as they use for painting. And after watching the sick man for a certain time, the monk reached over, dropped his brush into the ink slab, raised the brush and made a peculiar line on the silk, just one line. The sick man got well. Because the monk had captured the peculiar rhythm that was broken. And as the eyes of the sick man followed the rhythm of the line, it restored him internally. Pythagoras claimed to have done the same thing by striking one chord upon a lute. He was able to cure all kinds of sickness in that way. It was the symbol of the line. So in Japan, also among the Zen Jews, you will find the fable or legend of the monk entering into meditation of the most profound nature. And in his meditation he drew a door on a piece of silk. He sat and watched it, and according to the story, visualized that door. Finally, he got up, opened it, and went through the silk into Nirvana. Never returned. Now, these things are no more remarkable than the idea that Roger Bacon was able to pay for the Crusades by artificial gold that he manufactured in the Tower of London. They're all parts of this story. A story which has been ridiculed because of its outward appearance being sheer fantasy. For a story which has to do with the entire internal life of the human being. A life which is controlled by the centralizing of consciousness. Daruma, the patriarch of Zen, had an episode in his life that is a little reminiscent of the story we find in the New Testament. Daruma, in meditation one day, was walking along by the side of the sea. And after he was long in his meditations, he suddenly sort of came out of this trance-like condition of ecstasy in which his mind was one with the infinite, and suddenly, to his amazement, observed that he had walked out several miles onto the surface of the water. The moment he realized he was out there, he sank. For as long as his consciousness had been held in complete suspension, he didn't know it. He didn't sink. They also tell many similar stories about the power of this internal. Now, once he says this power is real, that it is possible to achieve this tremendous victory over the mind by the complete integration of the luminal part of the internal nature. This constitutes not only a victory over the world, but a victory over the great cyclic laws which control the activities of the unenlightened. Buddha is said to have risen victorious over the power of the seven planets. In the same way, the alchemist, transmuting the seven souls which make up his psychic nature, and attaining complete transcendence over them, and causing them to form the diamond soul, or the great adept self, achieves complete release from any limitation conceivable to the human mind or emotions. Therefore, he is completely without stress or strain. He is without tension. He is without negation. He is without any imbalance within his own nature. Therefore, like space itself, he is immortal. This was the Chinese concept of the transmutation, and I believe that the European concept, under the symbolism, was practically identical. There is no question in the world that this symbolism moving into the Near East influenced Arabic thinking, and much of our so-called chemical speculation came to Europe from Arabia and from Iran and from other areas in that general region. These chemical and physical chemical experiments are interesting for another reason. Which came first? Was alchemy the mad mother of chemistry, as some would have us believe? Or did physical chemistry arise from man's gradual recognition of great symbolical patterns within his own psychic nature? Is chemistry one of the expressions of the soul itself, interpreting itself through the symbolism of medicine and chemistry, and to a certain degree in philosophy and mathematics, all of which are involved in this subject? I am inclined to think that the alchemical symbolism arose out of man's own psychic recognition of these laws, and that man, attaining to a degree in sleep, the relaxing from tension which he does not experience in daily living, that in sleep and dream phenomena he comes a little nearer to the threshold of this equilibrium. Sleep is probably a kind of equilibrium on a negative level. It is a kind of transcending of action. Therefore, sleep, death, initiation in the mysteries, all these were always carried under one group of symbols. Sleep was always a symbol of death. Death was always a symbol of initiation, because it represented a transformation, a complete change of polarities. And in alchemy, the death of the metals, the death of man's seven souls, must precede the resurrection. And in the Christian alchemy, from the death of the seven souls arises the messianic soul, which is seen as Christ rising from the tomb within the bottle of the alchemical experiment. If then we have this group of symbols all over the world, they seem to be trying to tell us that there is a strange and secret art, an art by which man may break this vicious circle of his own inadequacy. And whether we call this alchemy, or whether we call it Raja Yoga, or whether we call it mysticism or Sufism, or whether we believe it to be the religion of the dervishes, or Platonism, Gnosticism, or philosophy, whatever we call it, it is all dealing with one thing, and that is the projection of the diamond soul. And that this diamond soul of alchemy is the soul in equilibrium, by means of which the individual becomes completely attuned to what Lao Tzu calls Tao, or absolute equal receptivity to universal energy. The universe around man, within man, is Tao. According to Lao Tzu, this universe is not only infinite life, but it is infinite wisdom, truth, love, law. It is not only all these moral things, but it is infinite nourishment, infinite supply, infinite availability. Everything that exists consists of Tao and nothing else, because there is nothing else. Everything that changes is Tao changing some appearance of itself. In its numerous and multiform appearances, Tao seems to be many things, but in its essence, it is one thing. Man, using the faculties which he has on the level of mind and emotion, looking at the universe, sees many things, but does not see Tao. Yet each of the many things that he sees is Tao. Therefore, he can say Tao is white, and he can also say Tao is red. He can say that it is sky and earth, that it is water and air. He can see it in the eyes of his child. He can feel it beating within his own breast. All of these things are Tao. But because of his nature, this Tao is infinitely broken up. And he can also see the phenomena of two things outside of himself in war with each other. He can also experience two feelings or two impulses within himself at war with each other. Therefore, he experiences through the division of his own faculties Tao as infinite diversity. He comes to it from an Aristotelian point of view. He cannot see the tree for the leaves. He cannot see the city for the houses. He may go so far philosophically as to admit that all these houses are part of the city, and that all these leaves are part of the tree. But in consciousness, he is experiencing the many leaves and not the tree, because that is what the faculties reveal to him. He looks out and he sees 10,000 stars, but he does not see the one star. For that star must be born within himself, shining out of the east of his own soul. He sees all these things and he is profoundly moved by them. And he says, God is wonderful. God is glorious. God is beyond estimation, because God can maintain all these things. And that there is an infinite power somewhere that can keep these thousands of millions of worlds radiant and rotating and revolving in their mysterious orbits in space. Therefore, we come to the concept of deity as infinite immensity, absolute power, tremendous authority. But always there is the star and the earth. There is the water and the moon. There is man, there is hunger, there is death. So man lives in this tremendous experience as within a great vessel. And he knows that he is living in a world of absolute energy. Yet he must work with his energy to transform it so that it will work in a combustion motor. He must work with it another way in order that it shall work within his own body to maintain him. He is living in a world in which energy is available, but must be constantly conditioned and changed. He finds it also possible to die of starvation in this world of absolute food. He finds it possible to die of ignorance in a universe of absolute wisdom. He finds it possible to die of loneliness when he is constantly in the midst of everything that lives. These are because he has not experienced God. Because he has experienced only the manyness. He has never experienced the tremendous dynamic of the dying self, or the soul. So gradually, through the experience of manyness, he begins to recognize the necessity of reuniting broken parts. And he creates formula. And formula is nothing but a method of achieving an end, a scientific method for accomplishing a given purpose. So we have in his great esoteric systems like Buddhism, and in the teachings of Yoga, Vedanta, and Taoism, and many others, he has the disciplines, the formulas, for the shifting of this sense from manyness to oneness. From the experience of God as all to the experience of God as one. A one which contains the all. or the experience from the experience of God as infinite action to God as inaction, which is supreme action. Now, our concept of action and inaction is that when action happens, we're doing things. When inaction sets in, we're not doing anything. The Chinese say that's no, that is yes. That's because we are looking at it from our level. The truth of the matter is what we call action is the supreme inaction in space, and what we call inaction is complete action. Therefore, that the motion is not from action to inaction as positive to negative, but from action to inaction as from negative to positive. The Tao and Tao alone is positive action. Why is it positive action? Because it is the only action upon which all things depend and which in itself depends upon nothing. Everything that lives because of Tao. And yet try and find Tao. Try to find this complete suspension of action. Try to find Tao as the teacher. It will never speak. Try to find it as the friend. You can never embrace it. Try to find it as nutrition. You can never put it on a plate and eat it. Tao is infinite. Therefore, the experience of Tao is the experience of infinite. And the individual moving towards supreme action finds that absolute action is absolute experience of infinite. And all else, comparatively, is inaction. Thus, internal action is supreme and external action is comparatively unimportant. The only reason we have to run up and down is because we do not know where we are going, and would not know if we got there. Thus, when the Taoist seeks this internalization, he is bringing together all of the disunity of his own psychic chemistry. He is reintegrating the seven souls to form the great soul. And he is then transmuting all activity, first into suspension of action, and finally to release through it Tao action. He calcines or burns up or exhausts all of his own personal actions. And out of the ashes of this, by palingenesis, he causes the flower of gold to grow. Or as in China, the little peach tree of gold, upon which are the blossoms and fruit of immortality. Out of the complete calcination of all of the negative aspects of action, he releases Tao through action. Tao is the tree. In the Chinese formula, when man ceases to make mistakes, the great virtue operates. And it cannot operate until he stops making mistakes. So wisdom lies in ceasing to make mistakes. It doesn't lie in knowing all. It lies in no longer breaking laws. And then this state is reached, this state of equilibrium. Then the gold grows. The seed of the soul is quickened by the suspension of action or by the reconciliation of broken parts. And immediately it grows. Bentley gives us the same story in the Mysterium Module. The tree of the soul rising from the root of gold is nothing but Tao growing up from the seed of equilibrium in human consciousness. And when this has been achieved, this tree also carries the 12 fruits which are for the healing of the nations. It is the tree of life. It is the sacred soma plant. It is everything which is for the nourishment of all that lives. But when this tree blossoms within the human soul, then we have the wonderful tree of the metals. We have the wonderful tree that is guarded forever and guided within the secret garden of alchemy, in which there are many drawings and figures of the ancient books. And also, in a strange way, this is the very peach tree under which Lao Tzu was born. Because it said he was born under a peach tree. Well, now everyone assumes that this is merely a little historical episode gathered from somewhere. But the tree under which he was born is the tree of immortality of the Taoist paradise. And no one seems to pay any attention to that at all. So that when he was born, they didn't name him Lao-Tzu at that time. They named him Little Peach Tree ears, because he had very large ears and was born under a peach tree. Now, why did he have very large ears? Because Taoism is a religion of very large ears and a very small mouth. Lao-Tzu lived and taught for many, many years and left only 5,000 characters behind him to summarize his entire philosophy. Taoism is not a philosophy in which you do a great deal of talking. It's a philosophy in which you are forever accepting into yourself, not giving up. But in accepting into yourself, you prepare for the release of the splendor of the sun. For once this tremendous jewel of immortality is cast within yourself, you burst into a sun. And from that time on, your rays warm and preserve all life. And you become the parent of another order of life. And a new series of peach trees rise in the garden of immortality. And having achieved this, and having perfected oneself in it, according to the Taoist theories of the transcendental period, not the original period, Lao-Tzu did not have this particular concept, but it followed in his teaching. After the achievement of this adepthood, after the wonderful mystery of the soul has been perfected, then the old Taoist adept goes off to seek the land of his brothers and lives forever with those, like himself, who have made the transmutations. Now, in the Greek legends, I think we can see pretty well what happens, what it meant. For what happens when the Greeks achieved great heroism and then died? Why, the gods always picked them up and made constellations of them. They were always set in the sky, and therefore you have stars named for all the heroes and nymphs and all the wonderful beings. The crown of Semele was taken up after death, and the chair of Andromeda was taken up, and the winged horse Pegasus went up there. Everybody became a constellation after they had made good, so to say, in whatever their problem might be. So the old Taoists when they got through, they went up to heaven and became stars. What is the star? Just another symbol of the diamond soul. It is just another symbol of the radiant sun around which a new order of life is going to grow. Because when men cease moving around the center, they cease to be planets and become suns. When human beings cease to move around their own centers, they cease to be wanderers and they become sages. And as they become sages, they become alchemists. And sitting quietly within the mysterious nature of themselves, they take that little furnace, which is the heart, which has the warmth within it, the point of fire and light, and in this heart they accomplish the creation of the universal medicine and the wise man's stone. But in the West, we would have a lot of equipment to do that with, and they did even in the Middle Ages. Because we have never yet realized, as fully as the Asiatic has realized, how subtle these things are, and how always the symbolism is internal, regardless of the fact that we insist on building a laboratory and setting aside $50 million for the research. Then we think we're really getting things. And the Taoists would ridicule us out of face, although on the outside, being a good Taoist, you'd probably agree with us and chip in $4 to help build the laboratory. Because he feels that it would be quite necessary to answer the fool according to his folly. But in the alchemy itself, it is all this internal mystery of man ceasing to be a planet and becoming a sun, ceasing to be a base metal and becoming a star, ceasing to be a series of separate parts, each struggling for supremacy, and uniting these parts through their death and resurrection, that they may all become the vehicles or manifesting centers for the dissemination of Tao. For when this complete equilibrium is reached, in the silence and the mystery where all parts mingle, where the seven colors unite to restore the white light, in that center Tao moves through. And moving into manifestation transforms man. For a planet is one who is moved by the sun, but the sun is one that moves the planets. And the spiritual source moves other things and is itself unmoved. But those who have not achieved this source are forever moved and have great difficulty in moving anything themselves. So with alchemy and the Chinese viewpoint, it is this creation of equilibrium and the release of the eternal, going into the tree, bears upon it the three great mysteries: life, immortality, longevity, and eternal wealth. And this is the great treasure. This is the treasure of the Arabian Nights entertainment. This is the treasure that all men come to seek, and to which they turn after all other treasures have failed. Now, there's much that can be discussed about these subjects, but I think this gives perhaps a little oriental slant on the Western subject, and may help to make this a more rounded out series of discussions. Well, I think time